Okay. All right, here we go. Testing, testing, one, two, three. He-Man. More importantly, the Dolph Lundgren He-Man. I did not know that I was going to bleed. Live and learn. Um, pull out some mighty colors we might be needing later. I knew I was forgetting something. Okay, so the Dolph Lundgren He-Man, the one true He-Man. Um, I was not a big He-Man guy growing up. I have a friend who's 1 year older than me, and he's a huge He-Man guy. So I suspect I just missed the He-Man hype by like 1 year. Um, you know, I didn't have very many He-Man toys. Uh, my buddy Troy, he had a lot of the He-Man figures and stuff, so I did get to play with him when I was at his house. Um, but He-Man was not really one of my guys. I was growing up. I was more of a Transformers kid, um, more of a wrestling guy, more of a superhero fan. But I did grow up with the Dolph Lundgren He-Man movie, and I always loved it. I, I've, you know, I'm gonna have to disable note for self, future streams, disable notifications. Um, but I was never the biggest, like, as far as the cartoons and stuff goes. He wasn't really my guy. Um, but the movie, the live action movie with Dolph Lundgren, I love that movie. I must have seen it hundreds of times because it was cool. Like it still is cool. It holds up. Um, I like that Dolph Lundgren movie. Um, he does a good job with what he's. Yes, everyone complains there's no Orko. Well, the only way to do Orko in live action at that time would have been to animate him, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And you know, Canon, who produced the film, A, was notoriously cheap, and B, they didn't have that kind of money for a animated Orko. But like I said, I always loved the movie. There's a charm to it. There's a realism to it. You know, like I bought into the imminent threat. I bought into the whole world as a little kid. Like, you know, and I've always been a Dolph Lundgren fan, by the way. Like, his Punisher. I've talked about this before. I wasn't allowed to rent the Dolph Lundgren Punisher as a kid. Um, my uncles told me no, and I still remember standing there in the video store holding the Punisher um, VHS and be like, "But it's got the Marvel logo," and then going, "It's too mature." So many years later, uh, when I got the opportunity, I bought that Dolph Lundgren Punisher film, and I probably watched it a million times too because I didn't get to watch it as a kid. So yeah, like my point is, I've always been a fan of Dolph Lundgren. Um, his take on He-Man, was limited by the resources and stuff that the movie had, but it's a good movie. It's a solid movie. You know, it for being such a cheap studio, they spent some money. They got some real sets. I know the director had to. I think this is kind of bullshit, but I know the director um, gave up his salary so they could finish filming the movie, get the last final fight sequence that we needed between Skeletor and He-Man. Which, you know what, I still love that. It's not the best 80s fight sequence, but I love it because we got to see those two guys really go at it for the first time in live action, and there's that. It does better than as far as the hero finally getting to confront his arch nemesis. We never really got that in the Transformers movies with you know Megatron and you know uh, his nemesis, but we did get to see He-Man fight Skeletor. Which is like, hey, they did that right. That the fight scene I know was limited by the costume. They didn't take that into consideration. Um, but we still got to see these two larger than life characters kind of duke it out. And I all right, I'm just gonna I love this movie. I've seen it a couple hundred times. I'm not, you know, I'm in the bag for the uh, Dolph Lundgren He-Man movie. Just throwing in a little bit more flesh color in here, some lighter tones. If you get the chance, go through and look up online the uh, design, uh, costume design and stuff for the He-Man movie. Some of that art is just gorgeous. I forget who the designer was, but you know, Dolph Lundgren. I mean, they don't make human beings like this anymore. I've never had the pleasure of meeting Dolph Lundgren, but for some reason in the early 2000s, the real guy, um, for some reason he accepted my MySpace request, and so in the early 2000s, I was MySpace friends with Dolph Lundgren, and I still think that's cool. Back in those days, he was posting, this is before Instagram and all that stuff. He was just posting photos of himself in sweaters with his grandchildren. I just thought, wow, this guy is so down to earth. if I ever had those abs, even for like a week, that's all my social media would be for like the rest of my life is just ab shots. Boom, 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 boom. Like I said, like I didn't really the cartoon. It was there, but it didn't really appeal to me. Um, but the live action movie really hit a cool spot for me. It was really cool to see Dolph Lundgren pop up in Aquaman too. By the way, I love seeing him show up anywhere. Go back and watch the movie. The design work on this movie is incredible. All the props, like, everything. Swordsman, like everything in this movie holds up. Even Dolph Lundgren's, kind of lack of English, helps to establish that, hey, this guy's from another world. Um, and on top of it, like, he like, it just, everything works for me. Everything works in this movie. And here's the thing: when I was a kid, I'm not exaggerating. I'm not saying woe is me. We would get a superhero movie every 3 to 5 years. Like, it wasn't, which was pretty good. But you got to remember, Superman comes out in '78, and it's not till '89 that we get Batman. The Tim Burton Batman. Like, action adventure superhero movies did not come along all that often. So the ones we had to cherish a little bit more. Um, kids these days have no idea how good they got it with, as far as, you know the stuff you like gets adapted and turned into movies. But The thing I love about the He-Man movie is it's clearly, yes, it's doing He-Man, but it's also clearly pulling from like Jack Kirby's Fourth World, and as a huge comic book geek, it's like, okay, this is probably the closest to a fourth world movie that we're ever going to get. Such a great villain, by the way, Skeletor is. Like in the cartoon, he's slimy, he's sleazy, but he's never a real threat. In the movie, he's legit imposing and kind of a threat. And he looks terrifying. That skull makeup that they did is, you know, like that's the face of nightmares. Again, little design work. I didn't notice this, but like on the belt right here, it's kind of like a skull motif. Man, the stuff so good. trying to get that face as best I could, man, because that is the face of terror. All right. Yeah, there's never a purple motif in his outfit. You know, it's all. Well, I guess it doesn't really need it. This is less of a painting, more of an ink wash. This is a black watercolor, but it has um, just a little bit of a blue tint to it. Throw a little bit of water in there. I don't know why it has a bit of a blue tint to it, but it does. There you have it. He-Man and Skeletor. Well, there you have it. It's my take/review of He-Man. One of the greatest films of all time. Um, no joke. I feel like I didn't get all the menace in Skeletor's face that should have been there. I'm a bad painter. What can I say? I didn't achieve my goal of true villainhood in Skeletor's evilness. Scourge of the universe. I always knew it'd come down to you and me. Classic evil shit, man. All right, there we have it. He-Man, Masters of the Universe. Hope you like these pieces. If you would like to win one of these pieces, I think I'll be starting a free art giveaway tier on Patreon where I will, a lucky name in the hat might get a free piece of art. So with that said, thank you. Like, subscribe. Patreon.com/Destiny Comics. Patreon.com/Destiny Comics. Yeah, like I said, thank you. I like He-Man. Always have, always will. Um, and yeah, I think that's it. Um, hope you enjoy this video, these streams. Still figuring out the best way to do it. But all right. Take care. Enjoy.